It's very easy in sport just to sweat the assets, the sports people, play, but it undermines the quality. They can't play with full intensity in some of these meaningless matches.
But somebody who's not woke at all is probably the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino. He's learned everything he needs to know from Donald Trump. He's refusing to resign. He has withdrawn his plan to sell stakes in the World Cup. But you've written about this story a lot, Matthew. I'd love to have your take on it, particularly as you've kind of broadened the argument quite rightly in your column today about the commercial impact on sport and how everything is now done to kind of generate as much revenue as possible.
Well, I have to say, I think above all, for me, this story is about the incredible importance of a free, fearless, investigative press. The Times has made the running on this story. I think Infantino would have had a good chance of getting it through had he got the internal coalition sealed up before the story had broken, to sell off part of the commercial collateral of the World Cup to an investment vehicle run by the president's son-in-law's brother. Martin Ziegler of Time Sport broke the story. He's run on it every day. It's been an extraordinary week and a bit. And in the column today, I've moved on a little to tennis. If you're into tennis, Jack Draper's injured, Carlos Alcaraz is injured, Emma Raducanu is injured because they play too much tennis. They're just playing on a circuit that never ends. Football never ends. The calendar's got bigger in the Champions League, the Championship, the FIFA World Club Cup. In sport, less is more. And I think that the commercial short-termism is actually jeopardizing the fitness of the sports people who go along with this hamster wheel of competition. So that's one aspect of all this. But the much bigger story for me is, it's wonderful that the Times has subscribers who are committed with their money to the newspaper, and it funds the investigative journalism, not just on Infantino, but reform in the crypto and all the other extraordinary. I mean, I'm a columnist, I write opinion. That's really an ornamentation. The real purpose of journalism is to expose the corruptions of power, and I think the Times and Sunday Times are doing it better than ever before.
It's interesting, I listened to a podcast on sport about the business of sport, and they made the point, they interviewed the new head of world tennis, whatever it's called, and they said tennis is, I think, in the top 3 sports, but not in the top 10 in terms of making money. I mean, you can, in some ways, have your cake and eat it and reduce the number of tournaments, the kind of tournaments that Jack Draper plays in and then gets injured, and make more money and professionalise it. So there is a case for sort of private money in sports and a sort of treating a particular sport as a commercial entity.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what the sports governing bodies are doing is making the mistakes that national governments are making. They're optimizing for the short term, but not for the long term. It's like a newspaper editor having very titillating headlines, but destroying the brand. It's very easy in sport just to sweat the assets, the sports people, play, but it undermines the quality. They can't play with full intensity in some of these meaningless matches, and it does undermine. So, I think strategically, sport is making a mistake that suits the players, the agents, the world governing bodies. But this happens a lot. It's like Western. You mentioned reform. Should they do a pact with the Conservatives? I mean, how can they do a pact when their economic policy is so different? We're deluded by these labels of right and left. Reform is on the right. Reform economically is on the left. It had a completely mathematically incoherent manifesto with state ownership of the commanding heights of the economy and massive public spending, commitment to the triple lock, putting pressure on the future, higher interest payments. That is not, what I always thought of as right. It's the economy that matters. And on economics, when we think of reform, restore, and Conservatives on the right and Labour, Green and Liberals on the left, it's just completely deluded. The labels make no connection with the reality of what they're proposing. I mean, forgive me for going back into politics.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly acceptable, Matthew. I mean, Sarah, we're coming back to you again to see whether you're giggling, because I don't know whether this is an issue that interests you or whether you've just absolutely enjoyed the drama.
In terms of sport and Infantino.
Well, just the characters involved. I mean, Infantino comes from central casting.
Oh, my goodness. It's... honestly, it makes me genuinely really sad because I would not describe myself as an enormous football fan, but it's actually quite a big part of my life. My husband, and so me, by a kind of process of like a gradual, slow infection, is a big Spurs supporter. Our kids have grown up to be Spurs supporters. Like, we watch football together as a family event. Like, both my kids have played football to like various degrees, and got a lot out of it. It is so important. Like, my local football team, Bath City, is, you know, like classic, you know, under the like not very good lower league team. I hear the roars from their stadium every time they're playing in my house, and it just feels good knowing that this is happening. And at the same time, to know that there is all of this good in football, and it is absolutely corrupt as an institution from the top down, and to somehow sort of be trying to wrest the goodness from the sport, while you know there is so much that is wrong and degraded and bad about it, I find really depressing and actually a bit heartbreaking. And, you know, I don't know how it can possibly be fixed. And I think one of the problems is that, you know, football is so beloved and so resilient that it can, you know, even everything that was wrong with the World Cup, I still watched all of it.
That's right.
I still really enjoyed some of it.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I think the Premier League has massively professionalised football, and it's a more enjoyable game to watch because it's played at such a high level, but you've got to keep the essence of it. But let's talk about, let's go away from that and talk about the US Democrats. In fact, talking about woke, this is a woke issue potentially, because the US Democrats are having an interesting time with lots of people getting selected who could be described as very much to the left, and a lot of it is to do with the attitude to the Gaza conflict. So the left-wing populist Abdul El Sayed has won in the Michigan Democratic Senate primary.
If you believe, like me, that we have a responsibility to stand up and walk with our unions so that everybody has collective bargaining rights in this country, if you believe, like me, that you ought to have the guarantee of good health care in this country without some corporation trying to tell you what you cannot have and should not fight for, I hope that you'll join this movement now.
He sounded almost Obama-esque in the quality of his rhetoric there, but the point is that he won on a platform focused on ending military aid to Israel, taxing the billionaires, abolishing ICE, the immigration police force, and his victory highlights this internal divide between the Democratic establishment and progressive activists. It's the kind of issue that could upend the Democrats' attempts to oust the Republicans in the midterm elections. I mean, is this a gift, Matthew Syed, for Donald Trump? Because I think he immediately labelled Abdul El Sayed as a commie.
A massive, massive gift for Trump. This is the biggest political story of the week by a country mile, with the possible exception of Demis Hassabis leaving DeepMind as CEO. I mean, this is, I think, seismically important because America is the leader of the free world. It has gone in a direction that I think many of us are completely shocked by in the Trump second term. So many aspects of it, from tariffs to the Iran war to threatening Greenland and Canada and more, and the absolutely grotesque spasm of corruption. And I think I'm desperate to see people from the mainstream, Democrat or Republican, to alter the trajectory of this country and to rescue the fracturing Western alliance from where it is at the moment, and the disaster that I hoped wouldn't happen, but I think is happening, is that the Democrats are split between a mad progressive wing that is reacting against Trump. It's almost an algorithmic waltz between the more extreme Trump is, the more a certain type of Democrat is moving in the other direction. I think this is profoundly related to the social media, and it worries me enormously. This is gonna give a MAGA candidate at the next presidential election a much better chance of winning. And it's a real problem.